Hi everyone. Today let's talk about the upcoming data tomorrow morning. Then we'll hit the charts, and then we'll go over my positions going into tomorrow. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So looking at economic reports for this week, we have durable goods tomorrow morning. We also have initial jobless claims and continuing jobless claims, flash PMI later in the afternoon, and then the big one here with FOMC minutes. So if jobless claims come back worse than expected, meaning a higher number than expected, that should be good for markets and should encourage the Fed to start slowing down with their interest rate hikes. And there's some potential that if those come out badly, that we could get some comments on that in the FOMC minutes and give us some predictability on what they are going to do in December. Moving over the charts, on the hourly chart, we have the S&P 500. Basically went up all day, nothing to say much here. Got the cross on those EMAs, so now the 9, 21, and 55 are all in order once again. Looking kind of bullish in this overall channel. Still have resistance sitting up here at 405 on the SPY. I don't really expect a lot of price changes before the jobless claim or the FOMC, so we'll probably go sideways. If the jobless claim is bad, like I mentioned, we should expect this to rally. And hopefully we get some comments from the Fed saying that they're going to start slowing down, and that could potentially sustain this rally further as well. In terms of price targets on the 4-hour chart, still looking at that long-term resistance at 410. Like everybody's been talking about that for a long time. You can see the big channel we're in. Haven't quite hit that upper limit yet. Regardless of what comes out of the jobless claim or the Fed minutes, if we hit this upper limit, there's a fair chance that we're going to see a lot of selling pressure at that level. But it is worth mentioning here on the 4-hour chart, we did get the cross and we're seeing a little bit of bullish momentum here, but we're also getting pretty close to overbought as well on this SPY. Moving over to the NASDAQ or the QQQ, again, big rally, touched this lower point of resistance, which was the lows here on Monday as well as on Thursday last week. Came right up to that resistance. Looks like we might have broken it just a little bit, and we're sitting right on top of it again. So planning that this is going to go sideways until we get those reports, and then might see a little bit more volatility in the afternoon. In terms of price targets, if we get back down to 282, the same level where we've seen support several times, that would be an area of some support. Then we're looking down here at 275, 276. And then we have that big resistance here sitting at 299 to 300, similar to the S&P 500. Moving over to the Russell, we do have a little bit of a trend pattern building here. All the moving averages are getting pretty close to in line. Almost like we're going to get a continuation in this bullish pattern that we've been seeing. Going over to the 4-hour chart, in terms of price targets, there's not a lot of overhead resistance. We're basically at the resistance here, which was the lows on November 14th, and the highs here on the 1st of November. And if we break through those, then it certainly looks like we're going to go up and retest this one more time, which would be around 192 to 193. And in terms of momentum here, again, on the MACD, we're getting some pretty close to green bars, just slightly positive, getting the cross here after hours. Certainly seems like we're picking up some momentum here, but again, just trying to stay cautious until we see those FOMC minutes and the jobless claim. Moving over to transportation on the daily chart quickly, another doji here today. So we've had 2 candles of indecision in the last 3 days, sitting right at resistance. If that jobless claim comes out bad, and we see durables starting to fall, then this could certainly move down. And usually transportation is a leading indicator on where the market is going to go. And you can see this downward structure is still very strong. This resistance here at 231 is still very strong. Tested it once already and rejected. If we get another rejection off there, that is likely going to pull the markets down. Even if we see a short-term rally in the S&Ps while transportation is going down, that kind of divergence is going to pull the market down eventually. Moving over to XLP for just a minute, continuing to put on the burners here, rallying aggressively. Huge gap up, almost $1 in that gap, and then went sideways for the rest of the day. Big oversold reading here on the daily. This obviously cannot keep up forever. Consumer staples is not going to be the sector that leads the market to new highs. And if this sector is rallying, that should be a little bit of a red flag for the rest of the markets. Moving over to NVDA for top gainers. Semiconductors as a whole have been very strong here recently. Big green day went from almost 153 up to 160. And this trend is still quite strong. We did break below this small channel that we had here briefly, but it seems like we're recovering, coming back up and retesting here. If it does fail here, that could be a sign of more sideways price. But overall, semiconductors look like one of the best sectors in the market, which is overall positive for the major indices. Growth companies like semiconductors going up is a good indicator that there's at least some risk willing to be taken in the markets. Moving over to XOP on the daily chart, you can see we did get that sell-off that I've been talking about. We've talked about it all the way since we were back here, so big move down. Hopefully some of you caught some of this move. That was about 8 or 9% to the downside to the bottom of that wick. And then that wick rejected basically in that 45 range that we talked about. And then we got a big green bar here today. I don't know necessarily that this is going to make new highs. In fact, I would argue that it is not. And if we see this roll over, then we can expect oil to continue down, maybe come down and retest that 144 EMA, which is currently at 139.18. So that would be quite a bit of downside. Definitely seeing some weakness here in XOP, which will definitely generate some weakness in the S&P 500 in my opinion. XOP has been one of the strongest sectors here recently, as you can see. And if XOP is not going to hold up the S&P 500, then it's basically all on consumer staples here in the short term. I do want to touch CHWY here just because I'm still invested in it. I want to say this 40-50 level from the previous high is very strong. We've thrown a lot of wicks here, and this looks like we're getting set for a move higher. And this trend is still quite positive. We did touch that resistance here briefly, but we only sold off a little bit, and it's holding above that previous high. If we get a push higher and we break this level, watch out above. It definitely looks like CHWY is going to go up to that 50-50 level of the previous high here in August. Moving over to the dollar, did come up and get overbought here on Monday this week, went sideways and then sold off. I didn't notice this as much as I should have, but we got below this point of resistance that we had been above and below several times here, got back above it and rallied from there, came back up, retested and sold off throughout the day here today. It seems like we're going to go a little bit lower, maybe test this 144 EMA here on the hourly chart, back down at 106.87. If we get into that range, I expect there to be some support. Previously, we've interacted with that level a few times here. You can see back in this previous price action. And also, we're sitting at support right now. So if we do hold here going into the jobless claim and the Fed minutes, you could certainly see this rally up if the Fed continues to be hawkish, and that would trigger a sell-off in stocks in my opinion. Moving over to JNK, we did get a big rally throughout the day today. Pretty surprised in my opinion. Did come in, retest that level yesterday. I thought we might get a break here. We did just for a second, and then we rallied back above it, threw a couple of pins, and then gapped up today, and then rallied right back up to those previous highs that we've tested back here on 15 November and then all the way back here on 28 October. So bonds continuing to confirm that stocks are going higher and that there is some risk to be had in the markets. Moving over to TLT, also confirming that stocks are going higher. Big rally in TLT, sitting at those previous highs that we had on 16 November. And again, waiting for all that economic data to come out here tomorrow. And if we see TLT to continue to break out to the upside, this could certainly go much higher after the huge sell-off that it's had here recently. And that should be a good indicator for stocks as well. If it does break out, I would be looking to get a retest of maybe 106.50. And there might be some resistance around 105 as well. So definitely a couple of points of free up movement, and keep an eye on this one going into that economic data. Finishing up with the VIX here, another big red bar on the daily chart. Did come back into contact with that previous downtrend that we've been watching. But this just seems extremely oversold here in my opinion. It seems like we are due for a down move. VIX is telling us that we should be ready for something to happen. It's just too cheap here at 2130 compared to where we've been through very similar economic conditions. You might be able to argue that you think you know what the Fed is going to do and where we think the economy is going, but I just don't agree that the VIX should be this low. And I would be expecting something either tomorrow or in December that's going to kick this back up. And maybe we finally see that big capitulation move like we had here in COVID that everyone seems to be talking about. This just makes me nervous, seeing it this low. And I know I've mentioned it before, but for you options traders, the VIX being this low is starting to make those options pretty cheap, not giving you a lot of wiggle room. So make sure you're watching for good entries if you are an option seller, because the premium is really being taken out of those options right now. Moving over to my accounts, you can see didn't make any money on my IRA today. I did not take a position on the IWM. I probably should have early in the morning, but I'm just nervous on the economic data tomorrow. It seems like the data is going to be worse. There's been lots of layoffs in the job market, and that should be good for stocks, but you never know. The FOMC can come out very hawkish and say some things that can drive the market down really quickly, and there's always another opportunity to get into the markets after that data. Otherwise, for the Qs, I'm going to get executed on this call. Did get max profit. I thought about closing this earlier, to see if the market was going to rally more. Probably should have done that, or I could have rolled this call to tomorrow just to try to squeeze out a few more dollars, but I chose not to do that either. So really my only position going into tomorrow right now is this CHWY position, which is fine. The markets will be open on Friday. They won't be open for Thanksgiving, and I can always reestablish my positions then. Otherwise, nice little 286 profit today, getting back over that 93,000 mark, which is great for my overall accounts. Still want to get my IRA back to break even on the year. That is the big goal for December, which certainly seems possible if that economic data comes out where we want it to be tomorrow. Let me know down in the comment section what you think the jobless claim is going to be and what you think the Fed is going to say tomorrow. Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.